The boardroom was a war zone that morning. The city's top executives sat in a circle of silence, each pretending not to stare at the woman standing by the window, Elena Royce, the youngest CEO in the company's history. Her tailored black suit couldn't hide the exhaustion etched across her face. For 3 months, rumors had circled about an internal investigation. Someone in the company had leaked confidential data, costing them millions. Elena had fired 3 senior managers already. And today, she was told the investigators were arriving to question her next. When the elevator chimed, her assistant rushed in, pale and trembling. "Ma'am," he said quietly. "They're here." Elena's throat tightened. "They're here for me," she whispered, turning to face the glass reflection of her own weary eyes. She had built this empire from the ground up, but she knew how the world worked. When things went wrong, people didn't look for truth. They looked for someone to blame. The door opened, and a man walked in holding a small folder and a calm smile. He wasn't wearing a suit, just a simple navy shirt with the sleeves rolled up. His presence was disarming, not the usual corporate investigator type. "Ms. Royce," he greeted softly, "I'm here to ask a few questions, if that's all right." Elena gave a stiff nod. "You can start." The man sat down across from her, flipping through his file. His voice was steady, his manner professional but strangely kind. "I'm David Lane. I've been asked to conduct an independent review of the internal leaks." Something in his tone made her pause. It wasn't arrogance or suspicion, it was empathy. A rare thing in her world. Still, she folded her arms, defensive. "You'll find nothing. I've already handled the responsible parties." David looked up at her. "I'm not here to judge, Ms. Royce. Just to understand." For the next hour, they talked. Or rather, he listened, carefully, attentively, as if every word she said mattered. Elena found herself opening up more than she'd planned, about the sleepless nights, the endless pressure, the feeling that no matter how much she achieved, the world was always waiting for her to fail. When the meeting ended, David thanked her and stood. "I'll need to verify some data logs and interview a few more people. But, Ms. Royce, sometimes leaks don't come from enemies. Sometimes they come from people who think they're protecting you." His words lingered long after he left. That night, as Elena sat alone in her office, she stared at the city lights and whispered to herself, "Protecting me? From what?" 3 days later, David returned with evidence. He placed a thin folder on her desk. Inside were copies of emails, data logs, and one shocking truth. "It wasn't sabotage," he said quietly. "It was your assistant. He was deleting old company debts that linked to your late father's account. He didn't want you dragged into the mess he left behind." Elena froze. Her father, the man who had abandoned her mother when she was 8, leaving behind only debt and disgrace, was the one ghost she had buried long ago. "You're saying he did it, for me," she whispered. David nodded. "Yes. To protect your reputation." She sank into her chair, her chest tight. "He could have just told me. He thought you'd fire him." Tears burned in her eyes. She'd built her empire on strength and control, yet she'd never realized the quiet loyalty of the people who worked beside her. As David turned to leave, she stopped him. "Wait. Why are you helping me? This feels personal." He hesitated, then sighed. "Because I know what it's like to lose everything and start over." Elena tilted her head. "You said you're an independent investigator. But who are you, really?" For the first time, he looked uncertain. "It doesn't matter. It matters to me." He studied her face, then slowly placed a photo on her desk. It was old, slightly creased, a picture of a woman holding a baby outside a small hospital. Elena blinked. Her breath caught in her throat. That's my mother." David's voice was quiet. "And that baby isn't you." 15 seconds of silence filled the room. She stared at him, every piece of her world shifting like sand. "What are you saying?" He took a breath. "My mother worked as a nurse in the same hospital as yours." She used to tell me stories about the rich businessman who abandoned two women at once. One had his child, the other had another. We both grew up believing our fathers were strangers. But it turns out. Her words came out in a whisper. You're saying, we're siblings? He nodded. Half-siblings. Elena's knees went weak. She sat back down, staring at the photo, then at him. It was there, the same sharp eyes, the same nervous habit of tapping his thumb against his palm. How had she never noticed? You knew, she asked, voice trembling. I suspected, David admitted. When I saw your file. But I didn't want to believe it until I saw the records. She swallowed hard. And you still came? To investigate me? He smiled faintly. Because I had to see who my sister became. Elena couldn't stop the tears this time. All her life she had fought to prove she wasn't defined by her father's failures. She had buried her childhood, her loneliness, her longing for family, and yet, right there, standing before her, was a brother she never knew existed. David's eyes softened. After Mom died, I promised myself I'd find the other half of our story. I didn't expect it to lead me here, to you. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was heavy with realization, forgiveness, and something Elena hadn't felt in years, peace. A week later, she called an emergency board meeting. The executives braced for another round of firings, but instead, Elena spoke with a calm they'd never seen before. The investigation is over, she said. The leak came from someone acting out of loyalty, not greed. No one here will lose their job today. But from this day forward, our company will be built on more than profit. It will be built on people. The room erupted in quiet murmurs. For the first time, the ice in her voice had melted. Later that night, Elena visited the company's rooftop garden, her favorite place to think. David was already there, watching the skyline with his hands in his pockets. She walked up beside him. You really are a single dad, aren't you? She said softly. He smiled. Yeah. My daughter's 6. Brightest thing in my world. Do you ever regret doing this alone? She asked. He chuckled. Every morning. But then she smiles, and it's all worth it. Elena looked at him, her heart heavy with gratitude. You should bring her here sometime. I want to meet my niece. For the first time, David's voice trembled. She's been asking about family. I think she'll like you. The two stood in silence, watching the city lights flicker below. Elena whispered, you know, for years I thought strength meant never needing anyone. But I was wrong. Strength is having someone who believes in you, even when you don't deserve it. David nodded. And family doesn't always come from the past. Sometimes it walks into your office when you least expect it. They both laughed softly, the kind of laughter that heals. Months later, the company thrived under Elena's renewed leadership. Employees no longer feared her, they respected her. The woman once known as the Iron CEO had become something greater, a leader with heart. And every Friday, a small girl would run into her office, arms open wide, calling, Aunt Elena. In those moments, Elena knew she had finally built something unbreakable, not an empire of glass and steel, but a family made of truth, forgiveness, and love. Moral: sometimes life doesn't take away what's yours, it simply waits until you're strong enough to receive it. The people who arrive in your darkest moments aren't always strangers, sometimes, they're the missing pieces of your own story.